So we
Yep.
are at the point, I think, that the infrastructure, especially when we went to 5G, 5G was absolutely developed as a weapon. And that weapon was turned into 5G capability, and now we control about everything that is around us using 5G. We can turn on our TVs at a distance, we can be away from our homes, we can set our alarm systems. I mean, we can do anything on things. But this
Mm.
6G is for us. It's for connecting us. And I will honestly say, after what I saw the other day in regard to the Venezuelan situation, where there was a discussion about some type of frequency
Mhm.
weapon that was used, I did the research on 5G. So I know the 5G was a weapon that you could not see. It was like you were walking into this window right here. In other words, you could be walking along and not see that that is like a
A
window,
win.
and you would run into it because it had a force field that you could not see. So it could literally
Wow.
push you back or do whatever. So now that that was, some people say, well, that was a Venezuelan person talking about it, but whatever. I already know 5G could do that. So if we have gone past 5G and whenever it's given to us to use on a normal level, everyday level, they are far advanced from
Way
that.
ahead of us.
The American people
Yeah.
understand it. I mean, this
Wow.
is what these black budgets, that's why our government has been so like upset about the UFO phenomena because they're going, like, who's getting all this money and where are these contracts and how are they getting this backward engineering going? All these kinds of things are being done, but our Congress does not know exactly where that money is being dispersed to and how it's being
Mm.
done. And I know that we have need to have our country protected. I'm not saying that we need to expose everything that we have capability of. But what I'm saying is, and looking at what happened in Venezuela, if that is true, and I know that you can use frequency, and I've talked about this
Yep.
frequency and sound and those kind of things, that
Right.
sound is a terrible thing. I mean, I'm a drummer, and I will tell you that if you put somebody in a room and you lock them up and you do a beat at 70 beats continue, you will kill them. Their body physically will pick up. We are like a tuning fork, and you can't get away from it. And when that happens to you, something it changes you biological. And we've heard about the problems in Cuba, the Havana
Mhm.
syndrome. There was all
Fantasy.
kinds of
Yep.
things in Russia. Delgado back in the 1960s was shooting these particle beams and trying to go after the Russians and make them physically sick using some type of electronic stuff.
Mhm.
Loud music, you've heard them use that and just keep playing it over and over. It absolutely has an effect. I mean, even in walking around the walls of Jericho, what did they do? They stayed in unison and then they shouted and they came down. So we see how frequency and vibration and sound can control so much. So I'm telling you, yes, I do believe that that infrastructure, if that was in fact used in Venezuela, that can be used against all of us. And it is
Yeah.
something, if you heard them say, it was like they were frozen, it hit them, their noses started bleeding, and they started vomiting. And I will tell you, if you go back and you look at the studies that I did on the 1960s with Jose Delgado and the CIA and all that was going on with that with the Russians, the deal was, and the deal is, for the Antichrist to control us without firing a shot. And
Yep.
we are
Mm.
there.